Centre for Popular Memory started out as the Western Cape Oral History Project over 20 years ago.
We wanted to develop a centre that was going to take memory seriously in all its complexities, that it was going to take archiving, particularly audiovisual archiving, seriously, and multimedia, multilingual dissemination of people's stories.
We do a lot of public work. We do travelling exhibitions, radio programs, social history documentaries. We write books, we write articles, do journals, and we also have a lot of work around public dissemination. One of the priority areas of the centre is trauma and memory. This area started out in 2004 when Sean Field, the director, and myself went to Rwanda as part of an archival team to assess the archival needs of film in Gacaca.
Gacaca is basically the Rwandan version of the TRC. Doing oral histories is fundamentally rooted in building a trusting relationship with individuals and giving people a space to tell their stories and making them feel listened to and understood. So fundamental to the process of doing oral histories is helping people to feel comfortable with themselves, their memories and their past. And the more oral histories you do, the more you disseminate those stories to communities, definitely it can contribute to both sense of self and rebuilding communities that have been shattered by traumatic events like forced removals in the past.
It's painful when I walk past the house, or if I walk with somebody, then I would tell them, that was my house, you see there.
I've forgotten about that experience, but I remember I was totally upset, very upset.
Especially the old people, they were uprooted. And that was one of the worst things that could have happened.
That's one of the risks of talking about the past, especially when there's been traumatic events in the past. And that's why a lot of my work is training students in interviewing skills, in the skills of being able to contain interviews when they do touch on those painful memories. Oral history interviewing is very much a slow, patient process which gives people a chance to actually explore their memories in a relaxed, comfortable, more intimate environment.
The mandate for Street Stories was that we chose 3 roads: Main Road, Klipfontein Road and Lansdowne Road. The only thing was that we were looking at people who either lived or worked on those streets.
Well, the people on the street, it's quite random. But, you know, we'll walk up to them and say, we're doing a project, would you like to be part of it? And overwhelmingly the response is, yes, I'd like to tell you my story. You'll interview someone in their home and they'll say, oh, you should interview my cousin, or you should interview so-and-so, and she'll refer you to someone else.
If you end up on the road 3 times a week for most of the year, people get used to you. So the first time you're there, they're like, oh, whatever, what are these people doing running up and down? And eventually there's this familiarity that gets developed and they start trusting you.
It's a privilege for me that I can praat vir mense. Ek weer vir gesê dit mense, jy kyk mos in 'n ander rigting van sekere mense. Ek wil vir jou sê dit is so nie. Hy sê reason ek het gevat het die interview dinge van julle, die interview.
One of the last things to come out of the project was the Street Stories book. The book itself is really just a visual text which includes images of the people that we filmed over the 3 years, the 400 people we filmed, and texts, oral history texts from things that they had to say about the streets and the work that they do.
It can be quite cathartic for people to see their images of themselves, their communities, and to hear and see their stories out there in the public space, which is, of course, can be in small, subtle ways also healing.
The exhibitions are very interesting because they've grown out of oral history texts. So, for instance, in the case of Imini Zakadalo, what happens, we had 2 women from Gugulethu who then went out and interviewed 40 people who live in Gugulethu around trauma and memory each in their first language in Xhosa. And then those oral history interviews were translated and transcribed. I then looked at those texts and listened to the audio again, and organically out of that, the themes came out of it, such as like what was it like growing up in the area and so on and so forth. And then we made those into exhibition panels. This exhibition we then took back to an opening ceremony where we invited everybody that we interviewed, all 80 people we interviewed and their families, to the opening. And they came and looked at the exhibition and commented on the exhibition. And from that we then made it into this more poster format, which was then taken through to the schools.
The book is also specifically intended to help, it's obviously targeted at people who experience forced removals, but it's also very specifically targeted at their descendants and students, so that there's a sense of rebuilding and that people will learn from the lessons of the past. In the back of the book, there's also an appendix on how to do oral history projects so that the students of history and sociology and other disciplines can actually learn these skills and also carry on this work, because this book is very much the introduction. There are so many more stories out there that need to be told still.
This is the memory of my sister.
I'll keep it so safe.
Keep it safe.
That's exactly what the work that we do is about, is finding ways to make other people's stories alive.
She can breathe.
But what happens as soon as they go into archives, or what we perceive to be archives or places of the academy, then they seem to fizzle out a little bit.
No, listen, we all want to hear your stories. Don't forget any details. Don't forget anything. Don't forget anything. Don't forget anything.
How can we forget? It's our lives.
Performing Stories is an innovative project using oral history methodology, but we are disseminating it through different performance devices. They include theatrical productions, exhibitions, music, dance, and so forth.
We train 10 to 15 youths between the ages of 18 and 35 in a number of skills: oral history skills, methodology, research, using the internet, basic computer literacy, transcription, translation, use of electronic equipment.
To how to conduct those interviews, how to transcribe them and all that. And in return, CPM will take those stories that have been collected by the interns for the archives.
In terms of the archive, we have about 2,000 hours of audio in the archive and about 500 hours of video. And that covers 7 languages predominantly. I'll often do the English interviews, some of the Afrikaans. And then as soon as we go into the other areas such as Gugulethu, New Crossroads, we have another researcher in the Centre for Popular Memory, Sibongile, and she comes with us and she does the course of interviews.
I started as an intern. I was conducting the interviews from Gugulethu, and a few of them from Langa. And now I'm working on the schools with a project called Bridging Digital Divide.
Bridging the Digital Divide is a 3-year non-governmental funded project. We work in collaboration with the Western Cape Department of Education.
We are teaching the students oral history methodology, also how to conduct the interviews and showing them how to use the equipment.
Like digital recorders. We offer extension programs with Digital Divide, like heritage programs, community history or school history. And we also offer mentorship for the Albert Luthuli Award, which is an annual award set by the Department of Education, and learners can participate in that.
Over the last 7 or 8 years, the Centre for Popular Memory has been building the online archive, which basically is a scholarly archive of our physical holdings that we now can put online in terms of PDF transcripts, audio, video, ephemera, images. And the idea is that basically you, anywhere from the world, can then access both information about the archive and actual material from within the archive through the web.
Imagining the Cities, Memories and Cultures in Cape Town was created in 2007, and it traces the history of people who live, work and creatively express themselves in Cape Town. The book is divided into 2 distinct sections. The one is called Disruptive Memories and the other one Resilient Cultures. So you have articles around food and culture and art and hip-hop and things like that, but you also have articles that concentrate on the oral histories of urban terror or education or displaced lives, refugees, migration, as well as the recovery from narratives of trauma. The one thing that I've found from the work that we do both on this project and in all the other types of projects is that everybody's got a story to tell. And most of the stories we hear have got this huge sense of hope. That's for me one of the best things about this project, is that reminder of humanity.
Ik is een thearense. Ik werk eigenlijk hier bij mijn no-joke store.